Moving on to our next session, we have the next two speakers. We have Lakshmi H. Shastry, Principal Solutions Architect, and Mr. ARUN Kumar, the Senior Architect from Brilio. A quick info about Lakshmi. She has a hands-on experience in providing strategy and solutions for enterprises based on leading technologies, focused on emerging technologies solution, innovation, architecture, and design thinking for customer value creation. Seasoned professional adept in driving digital transformation and building strong customer relationships. Worked with Fortune 500 clients on various large-scale cloud adoption engagements, coordinating with disparate business stakeholders in developing solutions across industry verticals. Ability to operate at all levels with attitude to deep dive, learn and be curious in translating business problems into value propositions. Experienced in consulting, assessment, migration to cloud platforms. A little info on ARUN Kumar. He's a seasoned architect with a decade plus experience in technology consulting, product management, solution architecture, cloud network, security, and infra architecture. He has a rich experience in working across verticals like retail and e-commerce, high-tech R&D, healthcare, logistics, and manufacturing. Ability to design, create technology roadmap, develop and implement them. Experience in performing assessment for migration to public cloud, enabling customer to refactor, redesign, and adopt cloud-native services, which helps them achieve operational efficiency, scalable, and reliable architecture. The topic for today is Paving a Pathway to Smart Manufacturing, Pharma 4.0.
Everyone, thanks a lot for providing this opportunity to present our experience in adopting DevSecOps, SRE, AML, IoT, and data science in Pharma 4.0 engagements. Just a quick short agenda for this session. So we, at a high level, look at the pharma manufacturing challenges and why there is a need to adopt Pharma 4.0 for evolving this smart manufacturing industries, and what are the potentials that are unlocked by Pharma 4.0, how site reliability engineering and DevSecOps primarily enable this smart manufacturing to become a reality. And we also walk you through a case study in the whole journey. I'm Lakshmi Shastry, a principal architect at Brilio Cloud Engineering Studio, and I have ARUN Kumar, senior architect. We both work for Brilio's Cloud Engineering Studio, who primarily enable digital transformation and cloud enablement to most of our customer engagements. So what we see here primarily is about the pharma manufacturing industry challenges and the risk, how primarily to one of our customers where we have been engaged, what were the key challenges where they would like to resolve some of the product shortage, the demands that is not being fulfilled, and lack of timely information, and also make sure whenever there is a product recall that happens, given it is in the pharma industry, these product recalls has to happen more consistently, and also make sure that the product quality is maintained as well. And even though just pandemic has hit now, before this itself, the digital transformation has been adopted by these pharma manufacturing industries. We also see there is a lot of competition in the manufacturing industry to primarily there is cost pressures and uncontrolled environmental conditions that is leading into this competitiveness. Also, the idea is to bring down the development times of these products and reducing the product lifecycle management operation time as well. The whole idea, again, is to make sure that there is operational efficiency and also a lot of data insights, which is primarily buried into multiple different systems without being standardized, and also a lot of integration with the partners and the suppliers also costed the quality and the timelines by when these drugs could be released. how Pharma 4.0 adoption, primarily a digital strategies and technologies framework that would help the whole manufacturing system, right from clinical data strategy as well as manufacturing transformation strategy, that would come together primarily to make sure there is a value chain and the connected data linking assets, people, processes, and reshaping customer engagements as well, right? So this would lead to a valuable insights, leading to improved efficiency, reduced errors, and also faster time to market. And at the same time, the cost effectiveness and efficiencies being well managed as well. We also see the potential that was unlocked to our customer, this whole adoption journey, how the digital initiatives help them to increase productivity, efficiency, quality, and speed, which also resulted primarily in minimizing the hazards and also ensuring the safety of the workers through a lot of automation and better maintained working conditions through a lot of insights, and also visibility to shop floors and flows through AR, VR, and automated system integration. There also came the advantage of handling capacity changes and labor shortages and predictive maintenance, planned and actual work timings, and also environmental protection. This led to tracking of the source of the suppliers as well, to make sure we always have the quality maintained as well as have the least time to do the fulfillment, because this digital economy demands a lot of digital business processes and also demand sensing rather than the demand forecasting way of doing business, right? So this Pharma 4.0, though it is a lot of digital technologies that come together to this holistic system in making all the connected ecosystem, there's a lot of integration challenges, and there's a lot of key moving parts. It might be with respect to the security, it might be with the newer systems, advancement in the technologies, or the newer platforms that are being released, which are primarily helping everyone to stay up to date in the manufacturing adherence to a lot of regulatory guidance and compliance needs as well, right? That's how we see for any smart manufacturing or smart Pharma 4.0 to make sure every system works as desired with the kind of predictability, kind of reliability. Systems reliability is one of the differentiators, which makes sure that there is zero downtime and also business continuity at all times, of whether be it high demand or being a peak traffic, or making sure to meet the demand sensing fulfillment of the market. So here we see system site reliability engineering, though a word coined by Google, the way it also makes sure that once the system is in the production, all these moving parts are primarily taken care and addressed through the system reliability. And this is primarily managed generally by operations team, who make sure that all the steps which were manual earlier is automated through solutions and software engineering, and a repeatable and consistent process. When we see this site reliability engineering teams, they are primarily made or composed out of operation engineers, at the same time with software engineers who have development capabilities as well, given that they have to maintain the availability, latency, performance, efficiency, and change management, along with monitoring, observability, and emergency response and capacity planning as well, to make sure that production system is always reliable and it is having 100% uptime, and making sure nothing stops in the whole streamline, right? So the whole benefit of site reliability engineering, what we saw is one, it helps to primarily release faster time to market with canary releases, and also A/B testing and the kind of blue-green deployments that can be done. At the same time, it also helps in a lot of additional earnings, because of the reliability and the availability of the application that is being available. Stability of the system is of utmost importance for reliability engineers, to make sure that there is always lesser data loss, and also it improves the performance and agility. Workforce productivity through a lot of mechanisms of observability, making sure there are mechanisms to identify, mechanisms to detect, respond and react, and also bring in the reinforcement of making sure not those errors doesn't repeat, as well as always not to have the same effort being spent on the same work multiple times. So this is where the site reliability engineering brings in its benefit, and all organizations are moving from DevOps to RunOps and to AI Ops and to no ops kind of scenarios where there is an end-to-end automation, and the reliability is taken care with self-healing mechanisms as well. What are the key principles of SREs? Like how we saw, it's a relentless learning. So always keep learning from the kind of errors that occur, the kind of mistakes that happen in the production, ability to troubleshoot faster, and making sure that the system is up and running. We're meeting all the SLAs, SLOs, and SLIs, because this is very critical for any business. And when there is a reliability with respect to the application, that's how more and more customers adopt this platform as well. Automation and self-healing through AI ops and moving towards no ops, I think that is one of the areas how people can more focus on the critical aspects and do less of repetitive work to the automation, and making sure all this, whatever is being learned, the wisdom of production is what they would call, is inbuilt into this automated pipeline, which keeps getting enhanced to meet various different requirements of the production application. The key tenets are measure all things, test all things, instrument everything, telemetry, maintain the telemetry, and reduce the toil and error budget. So reduce a lot of manual work, make sure that you have a reliable system which meets the SLAs, and also always own it. What you build is what you own. Sticking to that principle and making sure there is a cross-functional team which owns everything end to end, or there are full stack developers who primarily knows the complete life cycle of the application and to troubleshoot and give the right kind of fixes in a shorter time. The key tenets of SREs as well is primarily to bring in simplicity, and risk is one of the key factors that is a day-to-day business, but making sure embracing risk and mitigating them, and also ensuring service level objective, meeting those service level objectives, and manual task, reducing those manual tasks, which is a repetitive task, and automation and release engineering and monitoring distributed systems. I think these all go hand in hand for a reliable system, right? So making sure all these end-to-end systems are tied up, and this whole life cycle goes as a well-oiled machine is how we approach the system reliability engineering processes. Here, if you see how do we approach and manage this production application, some of the business components. First is to baseline the current IT operations, at what stage we are into automation, at what are the different systems, what are the different types of connectivity that is required, integration points that are part of this system, and also make sure there is a monitoring and observability built in right from the design stage into the application, so that it captures the critical information which helps us to troubleshoot faster, identify and prioritize interventions, create a backlog of initiatives, so that we know always there is business demands and business needs which primarily are taken higher priority, but making sure that we create these automated systems also brings in operational efficiency and the required kind of stability as well into the system. Implement interventions iteratively, so make a progressive step-by-step progression. It also helps to make sure the whole end-to-end system is becoming much more stable and automated and self-reliant, and moving towards AI ops and no ops reliability of the system. This is how we see right from the beginning how to incorporate, and I would like to invite my colleague Arun to talk about the DevSecOps, where the initiation of the whole product and platform building journey starts.
Thanks, Lakshmi. Hello all. So in this conversation, we will start with DevSecOps, right? So What is DevSecOps? DevSecOps is nothing but the DevOps with the lens of security. So it brings the key objectives that ensures DevOps works reliably and optimally by using software solutions that automates and integrates security throughout the software delivery pipeline. It also enables observability by giving visibility in your application delivery process in itself, which starts from user stories to the development lifecycle, to the testing, and to the various lifecycle environment till the production. There are key benefits of DevSecOps, right? Let's say if we talk about an agility, if you know all the enterprises are getting or turning into an agile model, which means all the applications are developed in a microservice architecture, right? So this enables frequent code commits. This it also brings in more agile to the development ecosystem. How did security is getting a part to it, right? So if you look at the recent trends, a shift left in the security is that most of the enterprises started looking into, because it improves the overall security posture by proactively identifying the vulnerabilities and reduce the risk surfaces. Other key benefits includes traceability, productivity and collaboration, and compliances that ensures all the codes are in line with the industry standards and regulations. These are all the key benefits of DevSecOps. If you look at the part structure of DevSecOps, that includes DevOps team with the security knowledge, right? So what exactly this team brings in? This team brings in the complete responsible for development, deployment, operations, and monitoring of an application. The next is the application security team, which is responsible for configuring security controls, discovering, and patching applications. Right. So in this slide, we will talk about the key principles and practices for achieving DevSecOps. The first and foremost in the DevSecOps is planning phase, where the secure development lifecycle starts by threat modeling, which is addressing the technical security depths and giving the holistic metrics of the DevSec environment. The next phase is the creation phase, where the developers start writing the code. Right, as discussed in the shift left in security approach, a secure plugin will be installed in the developer's IDE that ensures all the bugs are identified in the development phase itself. Right, so thus it gives a complete posture of the security before it is getting deployed. The next is the verification phase, where the actual testing process starts. Right, there are a lot of methods to do an application testing. One is a static application testing, as it examines the code to find flaws and weakness like an SQL injection, DDoS protection, or other WASP.in threats. Right? Similarly, there is another mechanism called dynamic application testing that examines the complete application as it's running to find the vulnerabilities that attacker could exploit. Right? So basically, it finds the weakest area in the code and penetrates through it. The software composition analysis tools helps to prioritize and auto-remediate the open source vulnerabilities. Right? These are all the verification phases or the components of the verification phase, what it brings in. The next is the pre-prod, where we do a lot of chaos monkey testing. So what exactly it means is it helps to test the resilience of the infrastructure where the applications is hosted. It also integrates with the other testing platforms. And also it kind of try to give a lot of inputs by giving and fuzzing words to the UI and try to manipulate that whether this particular front-end application is susceptible to SQL injections or not. Right? That's where pre-prod environment gets into. Once this phase is done, then the application is getting into a release environment where the software signing happens and it is shipped to the prod environment with the approved release cycle management. Till this phase, the development and the ops team going hand in hand, right? So after that, the role of SRE really starts in, right, where they ensure that the applications are risk-free from malwares and vulnerabilities using signature verification, integrity checks, and defense in-depth mechanism. The first phase in the SRE component is all about the detect phase, where we use a couple of products like an runtime application security protection, user entity behavior analytics, where it helps to monitor and also identify the risks involved or the deviations in the environment. Several pen testing can be done in a periodic mechanism, where it also helps to identify the bugs or vulnerabilities inside the prod environment. So based on this, that we can able to predict, that's where we talk about the last but one phase is the prediction phase, where all the outputs are consumed by the dev environment. And also it helps to correlate the vulnerabilities with respect to the indicators of compromises and the anomaly threat intelligence, right? Probably using in various mechanisms or common vulnerability exposure mechanisms provided by MITRE threat attack or various security frameworks. And the last is the release phase, again, to ensure all the security technicalities or all the bugs inside the environments are addressed. And if there is any deviations in, the incident response are notified. And then the response plan is also in place to ensure that all the changes are happening. And then it is updated so that the complete lifecycle process starts from, again, the planning till the release phase. Right? So overall, these are all the key principles of achieving a standardized DevSecOps environment. If you look at the key elements of DevSecOps, that includes or that starts with the Jumpstart kits, which has the templates and codes and the code repositories. And that's a place where all the codes are getting committed. The next is the DevSecOps implementation, which gives in complete end-to-end visibility and other tools and configurations. The containerization platform, as we talked about microservice architecture in our previous conversations or previous slides, that brings in a mechanism to choose a right set of platform like in Kubernetes, or it could be a public native Kubernetes services and OpenShift, right? The metrics that gives an actionable insights, release productivity, team performances are to most of the engineering insight element to the DevSecOps, right? If you look at the other, important elements, that includes maturity assessment that gives an current state visibility, right? Where exactly the DevSecOps maturity model is all about. And also it helps them to create a roadmap and so that they can achieve the end goal or the clean DevSecOps principles. The very important component is, or the element of the DevSecOps is the infrastructure and the cloud DevSecOps that provides a cloud-centric approach, whether it can be a multi-cloud approach or it could be a hybrid cloud deployment, or the applications can hosted in the edge cloud as well. And in that, how do we bring in the cloud security or the security component in our overall DevSecOps pipeline? Right? So considering these are all the key elements of DevSecOps, in the next slide, we will start looking into a functional representation of the DevSecOps approach, where the dev team in the left talks about the codes that are getting defined. I mean, the consumption of the code starts with the user stories, right? So they kind of consume all the user stories, ensure that the right functionalities are developed, and then the codes are stored in the repository. Right. So once committed, so we have a CA server. If you look into that, the CA server is a central piece of the whole DevSecOps model that invokes the codes that are committed in the code repository, which performs certain security checks. If you look at the left-hand side, which is nothing but the development mechanism, and the right-hand side is the testing mechanism, right? So the developers consumes the user stories from the management system, convert that into functional blocks, develop their environment, and then they store it into the repository. Once the codes are getting committed into the repository, we have our continuous integration server, which is responsible for creating the pipeline and also for testing the security as well. It includes the testing process by integrating with the third-party security players and enables the key functionalities such as the security checks, static code analysis that we discussed, code coverage analysis, and the dynamic code analysis, along with the software composition analysis. All this test ensures that the committed code, which are done by the developer for that particular functionality, is bug-free, risk-free, and also it doesn't have any vulnerabilities attached to it. If there is any anomaly detected, there will be an incident case raised in the incident deployment product, and that will again go to the backlog for a developer to fix it. Once the complete test passes, it gets into the QA, where we perform a couple of another, the functionality tests, or it could be a regression suite. And then once the testing team identifies that there is a complete environment is bug-free, it gets into a release state where the acceptance team is kind of doing their acceptance testing. If there is any problem or any bugs identified in the testing, the complete process gets in again, right, where the development team will take the bug and then they will kind of fix that code and then commit it into a code repository. The complete flow starts again, right? That's where you see that DevOps and the continuous testing goes in hand, and this process is seamless, right? Additional insights can be brought in by enabling some tools like in Prometheus, which gives various monitoring or metrics in that, which also gives the performances related environment as well in that continuous flow, right? This is the overall functional representation of the DevSecOps. In the slide, we talk about various tools in the DevSecOps for various functionalities, right? So for example, the first and the foremost is the requirement management. For the requirement management in the enterprises, mostly used in Azure DevOps services or Jira or similar other platform, while Jira is more common in the enterprise, right? And for version control or the code repository, GitHub, which is an open source or acquired by Microsoft recently, and then the Bitbucket and GitLab or TeamCity, or there are various other code commits can also be, or code repository can also be used. For code review and analysis, which is nothing but your functionality testing or the security testing, we will use a product like in SonarQube, Checkmarks, or Fisheye, which helps to identify that there is no vulnerabilities in the code. And also, once the code is getting into the complete life cycle, it does the full application visibility and identify if there is any vulnerabilities or not. The next is the heart and soul of the DevSecOps, right, which is nothing but the continuous integration server. A lot of well-known CI/CD server like in Jenkins, which is an open source platform, and cloud native services like in Azure DevOps, and the TeamCity are some of the few DevOps tools that has been frequently used in the continuous integration process. The next is the test automation and coverage. In this, it's kind of verifying the whole functionality itself. Multiple tools like in Selenium, Cucumber, or Jasmine, which is predominantly used for testing the UI functionalities, right? Or JMeter can be used for ensuring that the complete functionalities of that particular user stories or the feature is getting covered. The next is environment provisioning and the continuous deployment. A lot of open source products are in place. We see Ansible, Terraform, and the CloudFormation template in the Amazon Web Service, or it could be Azure DRN in the Azure environment is used for provisioning the infrastructure, and also being used as an script for running this continuous integration and delivery pipeline. The last is the monitoring, which is a core aspect because it gives a lot of insights about the CI/CD pipeline and the complete environment itself. The frequently used is Prometheus, which is kind of helps to monitor all the microservices related environment, and also the Elasticsearch, where we can combine with the Logstash and Kibana, where Logstash is an environment where we can store all the logs, and Kibana for verifying that or displaying all those into the visualized format. Nagios is a well-known open source monitoring platform, which can be used for not only monitoring the application, but for the complete infrastructure as well. Right? These are all the various tools that the DevSecOps environment or ecosystem is using. In the last slide, we're going to see the case study for a pharma manufacturing, which their complete environment is using a DevSecOps principle. It starts with the business needs, right? So the pharmaceutical is geographically located. They keep acquiring a lot of companies, which means there is a plethora of code commits and a lot of applications has been getting developed for their business consumption. So there is a lot of code commits happening across the geographical location, across the different time zones. So the main problem for the pharma manufacturing is to ensure that all the codes are in line to the common security environment or the framework. So the core objective, how does all the applications and the codes residing in the platform are getting into the shift-left security approach that we just talked about. And also, we need to ensure that the infrastructure is so reliable where the external stakeholders are also kind of consuming those applications. For this, we took in several solution mechanisms, right? So one is we used a secured infrastructure as a code. So what exactly it means is whenever the tools or if you look at an environment provisioning platforms like an Ansible or Kubernetes, whenever these kind of codes are getting generated, these codes are placed in a code repository. Even for these codes, we will integrate with the security plugins that will help us to identify proactively that whether there is a problem in that infrastructure as a code scripts or not, right? It could support an Ansible playbooks, or it could be a Terraform scripts. The security plugin will proactively identify the posture management of the security before it's getting deployed. Right. That's where we talked about the shift left in security approach for DevSecOps principle. So the automation of security controls for applications and infrastructure. So for example, one key factor, one key principle is to ensure all the certificates are getting, rotated automatically, right? I mean, that can be adopted using in Certificate Lifecycle Manager, or we can use in native services of Amazon to ensure that all the certificates are getting rotated before it's stopped getting expired, and then it auto rotates and enrolled before the services or the business is getting stopped. Right. There are various security controls across all the defense and with mechanism that starts from IAM, which ensures that right entitlement management is in place, and then the data protection mechanism, which ensures that critical or sensitive data are being discovered, identified, tagged, and then it obfuscated, which means the encryption is applied for those data as well. Right. So the security control as a whole, it applies to various sectors, as I talked about, right? It's majorly covering the defense and depth model. The next and the foremost approach what we took is ensuring the right monitoring platforms are in place that gives a lot of actionable insights, gives a clear metrics whenever there is a problem that helps to identify the root cause and remediate those as well. Right. The other is a backup and DR plan, which is a part of the solution, which helps them to ensure that even in case of disaster, we know how to recover those environment as well. Tracking of SLAs and in service level indicators for a business critical application, which is a core important of the solution approach. And we did this periodically to ensure that these changes are not getting deviated. Right. So this is the solution approach what we took. I mean, what are the benefits that we get out of it, or the business impact? What we get is increased efficiency from bringing more visibility across the upstream and the downstream process. So which means we have the complete visibility of the pipeline which is happening across the world for various applications. That also gives an real-time visibility across the complete supply chain. If you look at the supply chain, is kind of in the recent vulnerabilities that is happening across the industry. So the mechanism what we bring in really ensures that the third parties or external factors who are accessing those applications are not getting impacted from this principle. Right. The cost optimization across the process by using in automations. Right. That's where we talked about the complete end-to-end CI/CD pipeline and the security to be a part of it. Right. So the DevSecOps principle. Adherence to the regulatory compliances and the audit requirements as the complete the enterprise specific compliances are also baked or in line to this DevSecOps principle. Improved product quality and also ensures that the flexibilities are getting optimized, and then optimizing the performances or fine tuning it as well. So these are all the key benefits and business impacts what we bring in. As we discussed, right, there are various tech stacks that we used in this, right? Starts from SonarQube for application security testing, and then Bitbucket for code repository. The application is spread across a multi-cloud environment, which means they have Azure, they have the presence in Azure, Google Cloud, and AWS as well. Predominantly, they use in microservice architecture. So Docker and Kubernetes are part of it. The complete application security is done by Fortify as well, which gives an dynamic application security testing as well. Jenkins is predominantly used as their CI/CD pipeline. Right. So these are all various mechanisms and tech stacks what we use to achieve the benefits and the business impacts. Right. So finally, we are getting into it. So we covered the complete functionality of the DevSecOps and the site reliability engineering. If there is any doubts or any clarifications, please feel free to reach back to us. Thank you.